Robensive. Hi there, welcome to Robensive Training. Myself, Rikun Sindwar, and it's a continued video for the series against MSSQL attacks for red teamers. We already covered a few of the lab setup videos, and this is continued lab setup, and we will going to include or add vulnerabilities that we will going to exploit later on. So far, we have set it up our Active Directory environment. We have already set up our MS SQL server against the DC as well as the database server. The third that we will going to do is configure or misconfigure our MS SQL instance so that we can exploit it further. So that's being said, let's move ahead. Before moving ahead, a quick advertisement I would like to add here is for my course. So I have been already making this video series as well as documentation against or with the Git book for the OSCP equivalent course. And this course really helps you to gain core concept that you really require for your OSCP or equivalent journey. So that's being said, let's move ahead with, of course, our MSSQL attacks. So as usual, we'll start our DC first because DC will going to authenticate our other servers with the domain credential, of course. So once this DC is properly booted up, we can move ahead with the DB server, of course. Perfect. DC is running now. The DB server, power it on. It will not gonna take much time, at least the time took with the DC. Because DC has multiple services need to be executed. That's the reason. Alt Control Delete from. I'll go with a password. Just Bob at 123. Perfect. Running. All right. Everything seems to be booted up. As usual, I'll just boot it within the SQL CMD. But before that, let's just change our font so everyone can, of course, see better view. Perfect. This seems to be fine and fair enough for our task. SQL CMD, in order to pop up our CMD console, the SQL CMD console, where we can execute our SQL queries. Create first and foremost, what we're gonna do is we will going to create a login for the users that was created earlier, the SQL user and SQL admin. So if you haven't checked it out, go back, check the part 2 for the lab setup, and you'll get an idea. So the first, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add here paste instead, writing it, of course. Perfect. So what it's gonna do, it will create a login from the particular domain credential. The ROBENSIVE-LABS is the domain, of course. I'm not wrong. Let me just quick check. Popping up PowerShell. Let's pop up from here. At users slash dome. It automatically configured. Checked. So ROBENSIVE-LABS it is. ROBENSIVE-LABS slash SQL user from the Windows. Hit go, and the login is successfully created. This will just create a login access. We need to create a user out of that particular login. Let me quickly copy and paste it here. Hmm, wrong. let me type to create. What I can do is I can paste the notepad. Okay. So it will going to create a user from that particular login. I'll hit a go and it did work well. The second, after this SQL user, we have already created SQL admin. So what I'm gonna do, I'll create a login for the SQL admin. Hit a go. Same for here. SQL admin for the login. SQL admin. Perfect. And hitting the go. It did work. We managed to create two different user within our SQL server, MSSQL server, basically. The next, we're going to allocate databases, database for SQL user as well as SQL admin. So two database I'm gonna create database SQL user. This is optional, of course. It is not something you really need to do, but I would like to. SQL user DB. This will be for the user, of course. Create. Let's just go one by one. Hit a go. Create database SQL admin DB. Hitting a go. I can list all the database with select name from quest.databases, probably, if I'm not wrong. Hitting a go, and yes, we successfully created two different database, SQL user and SQL admin. Now we can grant permissions against those databases. Let me quickly copy and paste. So it will going to grant execution, select, insert, update, and common privileges for the database SQL user DB to the user SQL user. First, copy, paste it here, hitting a go, and should be good. You can grant revoke permission in current database, of course. So we need to first use that particular database, which is SQL user DB. Go, and the same command. Go. It did work. Now that particular SQL user will gonna have privileges to read, insert, and the mentioned one. That's being said, let's move ahead with the SQL admin. So similarly, I'll use SQL instead user DB, SQL admin DB. Go. Same things, instead of SQL user DB, I'll gonna change it to SQL admin DB. Admin DB. Sorry, SQL admin only. Everything seems fine. And let's hit a go. It did work. So now admin has privilege to this particular database, which is SQL admin DB. This is optional totally. If you don't wish to go ahead, you can. That's not a problem at all. Now, the main part comes here. The first and foremost is user impersonation. I can change the font. You all can read it well. I think yes. T would be sufficient. User impersonation. For what reason this privilege is assigned is, let's say there are two different developer, or let's say database managers over in particular organization. So what they'll gonna do, they'll not gonna allow the newcomer, or let's say the two different particular developer to have the same credential. Instead, they might allow to impersonate. So let's say there is a developer A, developer B. Developer A has access to SQL user DB or SQL user, let's say, account, and B has SQL admin, right? So now this SQL user somewhere require access to SQL admin, but this SQL admin credential should not be shared with let's say user A. So what they'll gonna do, they'll instead SQL admin will gonna what will gonna do is allow impersonation. So now instead of having credential to this SQL admin, SQL user can impersonate SQL admin with just a few commands or statement, SQL query specific. So that being said, let's just add this particular user impersonation thing. And for that, we already have this copy. So let me quickly copy that. Perfect. So what are you gonna, no, not this one. It's not copied yet. This seems to be fine. So what are you gonna do? It will gonna grant impersonate on a login particular SQL admin on the SQL user. So basically the SQL user will going to have impersonation of SQL admin. So if I'm logged into SQL user, it will allow me to impersonate SQL admin. So we will look more into it in a different, of course, video for the exploitation, but this is just a lab setup. So I'm granting this permission. For that, I need to be in a master DB that I remember. Use master. So seems to be fine. And let's impersonate. Hitting a go. It worked. Just hit exit. The reason behind that is I want to clear this window. I added this SQL user to impersonate SQL admin. So basically SQL admin has extra attributes of impersonation and it is allowed to SQL user. The second user that I want to be impersonate is the rob. It is not required, of course, but I'm just adding it. So instead of SQL user, it will be SQL admin. The third I want here is, whoops, account SA to SQL admin. That being said, let's just add both of them. So first, what I'm gonna do, I'll change SA attributes to allow impersonate to SQL admin. So with the SQL user, we can impersonate SQL admin, and with impersonation of SQL admin, we can impersonate SA account. That's being said, let's copy. Of course, I think by default I am in master DB, so should be good. So it worked. This is optional totally. So if you wish to, you can add. If you don't wish to, it is all okay. Perfect. So now those accounts have privilege to do impersonation that we will going to learn against our next video. Okay, in exploitation part. But right now we are still in a lab setup. That being said, we are done with this impersonation in which we can impersonate from user A to user B and user B to the SA or system admin account. So the next here is impersonating database owner, right? So that being said, let's just move ahead. Topic name is impersonate DBO, database owner. For impersonate DBO, we'll first need to check what are the database and their owners. That I already have a particular command. You probably find all the different commands in the text version, the description, of course. Um, why this copy paste fails? Okay, fine. Good. Go. So now I have all the different databases, and I want a particular user to impersonate SA account, which is system admin, straight away. What I'm gonna do, I'll choose, let's say, MSDB. That will be the perfect choice for now, and I'll add a DBO basically. I'll just allow impersonating DBO same way how we did for the login. Already have the command, so let's just use that database first. MSDB, go. The database has been successfully changed. Oops, copy paste fails. Bad. Okay, seems to be good. So what I'm gonna do is every database has a user, default user as a DBO, who is a database owner. So what I'm gonna do is I'm granting impersonate on a particular user or database owner. So that will be here as SA, and I want that to be allowing impersonation for the user SQL user. So SQL user can impersonate owner of that particular database, and database is MSDB, whose database owner is SA. So now indirectly this particular SA account can be straight away impersonated with the user SQL user. So that's being said, let's just add, hitting a go, and it did worked. Perfect. So this is all the impersonation thing, and we are done with the impersonate SA and impersonate DBO. The next here, which I would like to add, is the link server, of course. Link server. Now, link server. What are the link servers? So, basically, what I can say is in large organization, there are servers, database servers like production and UAT. Both are linked to each other. Usually, you'll find this during a red team assessment. If you are doing, you might already aware. So those linked server are linked to each other and can execute commands straight away. So from the machine one, I can directly execute command on the machine two. Command means SQL query and machine means MSSQL server. Okay. So that's being said, let's just quickly add our SQL server or link the SQL server. For that, I'll again use master. Should be good. Let's go. And let me copy and paste out. Why this copy fails? Seems to be fine. So what I'm gonna do, it will use this predefined function sp add linked server, and it will gonna add dc01. That's what we have as a second SQL server. We can also create two different server instead of having a DC as a SQL server. But just to make it simplistic, I use the DC as another link server and the SQL server, of course. So that's being said, we have this already, and let's just paste it. Okay, there might be error with this query, but let's just hit a go in order to check. Okay, no errors. What it's gonna do, it will gonna add, it has already added this DC01 in a linked server, and SQL server is what the entity product name is. So that's being said, we can list all the link server in order to verify whether it has been successfully added or not. There is another similar user-defined function, or this predefined function, I would say, as sp link server, which is going to list down all the link server. So let's just execute that particular function. Exec sp underscore link servers. Good. In the scope, of course, this is weird output, so hard to even read. So instead of list down all the entities, probably I can simplify. So we can use the select name from sys.server where is linked equals to what. So it will gonna list down all the link server, and should be good. Go, and here it mentioned that DC01 is the one which is linked. So that being said, let's just move ahead with the other approach. So we are already done with the impersonate assay, impersonate DBO, and the link server. We have configured our link server. However, we need to configure the account that is being used or that will be going to use in order to connect to this DC01 for our, of course, the lab setup purpose. So for that, I already have command copied, and let me just quickly paste here. Oops, copy paste fails. So, all right, fine. So what it will gonna do? It will gonna use the function sp add link server login, and remote server is DC01. It says use self. I'm saying no. Basically, use the current user account that I don't really wish to. The local login, I'm saying no. Remote user will be SA, and the remote password will be admin at 123. That is something we already configured. So, and every time I'll gonna execute something from the particular link server, it will be using this SA account. So that's being said, exec xp link server login, and hitting the go. Everything should be fine now, and everything is configured for our lab setup. So now the only thing that will gonna be is the exploitation. The reason I chosen to show you all the lab setup is it makes the vulnerability clear. The impersonate assay will add the attribute of impersonation for the account assay, and it will allow a particular user. For this, we added the sqluser to allow impersonate to sqladmin, and sqladmin will allow impersonate to ssa here. So this is something impersonation DBO. For that, we have used MSDB DBO allow to impersonate SQL user. So basically, SQL user can impersonate this MSDB, not the QB, of course. Here for the link server, we added linked server, which is DC01, and what we did next was added SA login. So every time you execute any command through link server, it will use the SA. So let's a quick check whether our execution is being done through SA account or not. Right, so let's validate our particular link server execution, whether it is being done through SA or not. And for that, the command is pretty much simple. It will be select from open query. Okay, so let's start from open query. Open query is a function which allows us to execute commands on a link server. So the link server is DC01 and the query I want to be executed. Select system underscore user, and no need to even add those brackets. So seems to be fine. Let's hit go, and here we see SA is the account which is being used when I execute any commands over the link server. If I say current machine user, so it will be system underscore user. So it's a Robensive Rob. However, when I execute in a linked server, it will be SA. So that being said, we'll move ahead with the exploitation part. And the exploitation part will be, of course, not gonna upload it directly here. It will be as I can say talk. So I will be having a talk with the Mystico. So if you are not aware, Mystico, can just follow the links which shown below. And yeah, so Mystikcon will be Mystikcon 2022 will be on 11th of December. And 11th of December, I will be showing exploitation of all those vulnerabilities, right? Using, of course, my own tool, which is MSSQL Attacker. And so if you are not aware, you can Google and find it over GitHub. So let me show you quickly. Internet Explorer is not gonna work efficiently. So here, MSSQL Attacker will going to help everyone to perform those attacks. Attacks includes here, check impersonation, whether or not the current user can impersonate any other user over the system. Check link server version, UNC path inject. I'll explain in exploitation part, but this is not specific any configuration required for exploitation. Getting the information of current user and all. Toggle CMD shell. What is CMD shell and all? I'll explain, of course, during that particular talk. Toggle linked CMD shell. So link server has this SA account, which is a system admin, and we can toggle the CMD shell, which will allow us to execute command. So execute link CMD and execute CMD will be the two different attacks. The final most is run custom query. So everything for the exploitation, I'll explain in that talk. So don't forget, the name is Mystikcon. I'll share the link, just be connected, and that's all. So that's being said, that's it, that's all. If you haven't checked my course for the advanced network exploitation, it's a network pen testing course. You can check out link gitbook.robensive.in. And that's being said, let's just close our topic, close our session, and close our series. So hope you learned something new, hope you liked, and if you do like that, subscribe for getting more high quality, high efforts videos and series. And yeah, comment for any other requirements or queries. So that's it, that's all. See you next time.